Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to talk about one of the new skills that's showing up in 3.15 in the Expedition League, and this is the skill Mana Bond. This is loosely themed around the Hierophant Ascendancy, although you don't need to be a Hierophant to use it. Now, this skill is interesting. When I first saw it being used, I erroneously thought that it was some sort of melee slam. No, it is a spell. And it is a spell that is based around the same sort of mana stacking mechanics as Archmage support. Broadly speaking, I think of this skill as an alternative to Archmage for a lot of builds. I still need to see whether the two of them can be used together or not, and that's going to be something we'll have to wait until the patch notes come out to be certain on. So, pay attention to the character's mana bar here, as that will occasionally be important as we're discussing this video. So the first thing we're going to see is a character in the video using this skill just to hit an area in front of them. They're going to be casting it at full mana. Now, why does that matter? This skill has more damage projection, i.e. it hits a larger area, when your mana bar is close to full. It has more damage, raw damage, when your mana bar is close to empty. These do not work the same way. The increased damage is based on the absolute amount of missing mana, whereas the increased damage projection is based upon the percentage of mana that you've got in your mana pool. So that means that if you're at 50% mana, the damage projection is going to be based upon you being at 50% mana, but the extra damage will be based upon, for instance, you being at having 4,000 mana missing from your mana bar. So let's have a look at what it looks like in practice, just being used in a sort of target dummy environment, or without even a target dummy. You see that's hitting a large area of the screen. Now we're going to see what happens when the character casts Arcane Cloak. By casting Arcane Cloak, this character is going to burn a lot of mana, and that's then going to mean that when they use the skill next, it's going to hit a more concentrated area. It's a more concentrated area because they're going to only have 50% or so mana at the time they use it. So Arcane Cloak, and now you see it's a much tighter, much more focused area. And sorry, I misspoke. I said 50% mana. They've got more than 25% and less than 50%. Here's it being used to clear, and you can see that it's hitting a lot of different spots on the screen. It seems to be doing adequate damage, although we don't know how powerful this character is. Then we're going to see it against bosses. Now, firstly, the character in question is going to burn a lot of mana. And that's what this sigil is doing, burning a lot of mana for them. And also, I think they've cast the sigil, they've also cast Arcane Cloak. And at this point, you'll see they've got an Arcane Cloak for 8,054 mana. So that means that they've got 8,054 mana missing from their pool. And so they're probably at maybe 3,500 out of 11,500 or something like that. You're now going to see what it looks like when it's a tight, focused skill that's hitting just the bosses of this racecourse map. So Clonk, it's not hitting a large area, but it is doing pretty devastating damage because that just two-shot those bosses. And that is what Mana Bond looks like when it's being used at the moment. And let's just get some of those nice graphics on the screen. You can see that's hitting a large area. So let's have a look at the actual stats of the gem and discuss a little further. So firstly, you'll notice that it has some flat lightning damage, 7 to 39 at level 12. Then it has additional base lightning damage equal to 15% of your missing unreserved mana. So that's the portion where if you are at, say, 4,000 out of 11,000 mana, then you're going to get an extra 1,050 extra base lightning damage. So that just dwarfs the 7 to 39 in this case. Then you have the extra length per percentage of unreserved mana you have. Additionally, we do not know with this skill how it scales with gem level. Presumably the 7 to 39 increases like other skills do. We don't know if it's going to remain at 15% of unreserved mana or whether that increases as the gem level goes up. We don't know whether plus 6 to length per 25% scales or doesn't scale at all. And we don't know what the quality bonuses are going to be. But the first place that I went to for thinking of how you might build around this is, of course, one of the most powerful and ubiquitous unique items in the game in the 3.14 expansion, and that is the unique staff Pledge of Hands. One of the shortest and simplest staves around. And for those of you, just as a quick aside, for those of you that are wanting to use the Path of Exile wiki on desktop like I'm doing now, just hit there's an expand collapse button. For some reason it forces mobile style design on you, which is useless. You don't want that. Just hit expand and it becomes useful again. Sorry about that. That's a quick aside. But Pledge of Hands is a powerful spellcasting tool. It causes Socketed Gems to be supported by level 30 Greater Spell Echo. This is only available in Pledge of Hands, and it causes the spell to repeat multiple times, each repeat bigger and better than the one before. And it actually works really well in conjunction with a Spell Echo, due to the unique mechanics of Greater Spell Echo. Then it has a large chunk of increased spell damage and a massive chunk of increased maximum mana. This staff tends to be best in slot or very close to it for a lot of mana stacking builds. And I expect builds that are based around Mana Bond to be no different. Builds based around Mana Bond are going to want to use Pledge of Hands in most cases. And that's fine because Pledge of Hands is a really good item. Otherwise, you're going to want to scale lightning damage via whatever means you can, lightning spell damage. You may or may not choose to go crit here. I think that going crit may be hard to do, and you're probably going to feel like the Hierophant Ascendancy is the logical choice. It's not the only available option, but it's certainly where I would be thinking of starting a mana stacking build at League start. Now, a couple of things we don't know yet. Firstly, we don't know whether Mana Bond will or will not interact with the Archmage support gem. It has a new tag Arcane on it, and so we're just going to have to find out exactly what that means, and that's probably information that we'll get when the patch notes come down in a day or two's time. In 2 days' time. That will give us a sense as to what exactly you can use to scale this skill. However, definitely maximizing the amount of mana that you've got and probably just playing it as straight up lightning damage is the way to go. That said, I'm sure that there will be people who take advantage of just how chunky the base damage on Mana Bond can be to maybe do something a bit more hipster like Ignite with it as an Elementalist, or even just as a Hierophant using the unique ring Stormfire. I can certainly see that being something worth trying. Or maybe something really bizarre, like using a Lightning Volker's Guidance or something like that to do some really weird things with it. But ultimately, I think that this is the sort of skill that you could conceivably League start if you are confident that you can get your hands on a Pledge of Hands. Pledge of Hands can be several exalts at League start, so it's not something that I would recommend doing if you're not someone that's pretty familiar with Path of Exile's economy, and you don't have, and if you don't have a clear sort of game plan as to how you're going to get yourself your first few exalts. But if you do, I think there will be some payoff. I think this looks like it's got a lot of base damage, and it's the sort of skill that I think can scale up really well and probably can carry you into endgame. Of course, you are going to need to be standing still casting this. This is going to be a self-cast skill, and that can be a dangerous play style. That said, I'm keen to hear your thoughts. If you've got comments or questions, definitely fire away below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you have a good one, and may your Varlorbs have interesting results.